At 6:01 a.m., a tow truck idled at my curb chain, clanking two guys in matching polos, measuring my front steps like they were building a case instead of taking a ramp, and the HOA president stood on my porch waving a lien notice like a trophy. Inside, my dad's heart monitor beeped from the recliner. We moved to the front room, steady but nervous. And I felt this hot calm settle in, because I knew this wasn't about paint colors or lawn heights anymore. This was about power. I hit record on my phone, put my body between the saw and the wood, and said what I should never have to say to anyone holding a clipboard. You touch that ramp, and you answer for it. I live in Cedar Ridge Hollow on Alder Court, where the mailboxes match, and the gossip runs faster than delivery vans. I'm Nate Carter. I run a bay at Ashford Tire and Auto, and I am a quiet guy who would rather measure torque specs than make a scene. But 2 months after my dad's stroke, I built that ramp with treated lumber and non-slip tape, and a slope I measured 3 times. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't invisible. It was safe, and it let my father walk out to feel the sun like a person again. The first knock came at 6:12 a.m., 3 crisp raps like a metronome for rule lovers. And there she was, Brenda Klein, with the perfect hair and the tighter smile. Mr. Carter, you're in violation of Bylaw 14. 2. Unauthorized exterior structure, she said, handing me a $500 fine and a form called corrective action that sounded like a punishment you get after detention. And when I said it was a medical ramp and my dad started therapy this week, she tilted her head and said, "We sympathize, but ramps require pre-approved composite materials and hidden fasteners. Yours reads industrial." And I said, "My dad reads human." I kept my face calm while she took photos from the sidewalk like a tourist at a crime scene. Another board member ran a laser line across my handrail, as if the angle could be guilty. And when they left, I found a yellow sticker on my garage that said, "Courtesy reminder." Grass edging inconsistent with community aesthetic, which is the kind of sentence you write when you haven't met a human need in a while. I emailed an appeal with my dad's note, and photos polite, organized no heat then. I called the city and found a voice that sounded like a life preserver, an accessibility officer named Ruth Delgado, who said as if it were obvious, "HOA bylaws do not override municipal accessibility allowances. I'll email you the guidance. Keep it by the door." And 20 minutes later, a PDF landed that glowed like permission to stand up. I printed 2 copies laminated. One like a school project, thumbtacked the other above my dad's PT calendar, and then a pastel newsletter slid into my inbox with a banner that read, "Harmony over haste," and a paragraph that said, "Unapproved medical equipment should remain discreet for the benefit of community cohesion." And I laughed out loud because my dad's left foot drags like an anchor, and someone wants it to be discreet. You know what I mean? Then came the final notice. Ramp removal by Friday at 5:00 p.m. Compliance remedies, daily fines, amenity restrictions. All the gentle words that mean, do what we say, or we squeeze you. I called Brenda and got the ad voice. Codes are open to interpretation. Our community values subtlety. And I said, "My dad values walking." And she said, "We all have values," and hung up. Pressure has a rhythm on Alder Court. Wednesday, Dawn gave me an orange sticker on the garage Thursday noon. A toe tag on my pickup for a so-called commercial appearance because my toolbox peeked over the bed rail that night. The sprinklers soaked the community board right where my appeal hung like a wet flag. And by Friday at 6:01 a.m., the white truck from Crestline Home Services rolled up with a work order signed by Brenda Scope, Remove non-compliant ramp invoice to homeowner, and the man with the saw said, "We just follow orders. You'll want to move anything fragile." Sawzall gets feisty. And I said, "You cut that, and your day ends in the back of a cruiser." I dialed 911. I dialed Ruth. I texted neighbors and my friend across the street. Jenna Brooks wrote back that her doorbell cam caught Brenda sticking the final notice on my door at 5:19 a.m. "Before office hours, video's clean," she said. "You want it? It's yours," and yeah, that happened. That night, the treasurer on paper and quiet resistor in real life, Omar Patel, knocked on my door, like we were in a spy movie shot behind a grocery store, and slid me a manila envelope with last month's ledger. We sat under a humming kitchen light and ran our fingers down rows that said, Crestline Home Services, $4,850 memo, Horizon Path Consulting Crestline, $3,400 memo, Horizon Path Consulting Crestline, $5, $100 memo, Horizon Path Consulting a pattern wearing a hat that said coincidence. And Omar whispered, "I never signed a conflict of interest disclosure for an LLC called Horizon Path," and my jaw did that slow grind people mistake for patience. I went to the design review meeting in the beige room with the soda machine hum, where Brenda sat behind a little brass plaque that said President, and told the crowd this was not punitive. This was aesthetic stewardship. And when my turn came, I put Ruth's email on the lectern and the doctor's note, and 3 photos of neighbors with visible generators and heroic orange sheds and extra tall fences that never got touched. I said, "Selective enforcement isn't stewardship. It's just selective." And she said, "Time expired. Decision stands." And I said, "Calm as a torque wrench. Then I'll bring your ledger to the city and the state consumer protection line." And the room made that quiet inhale. Rooms make when truth floats in. When I got home, my pool card was dead, and an email said I owed $1,200 for hostile communication. The next morning, a notice went up for a safety audit by Crestline to re-inspect my property for trip hazards. My dad read it and said, "They'll find a trip hazard when I meet that clipboard," and we both smiled. The kind of smile you wear right before a storm. Jenna brought the doorbell clip on a flash drive. We scrubbed the frames until we heard it clearly. Brenda's whispered to someone off camera, "Use the expedite clause he'll fold when he sees the lien letter." And we just stared at each other, because sometimes you chase smoke, and sometimes you find fire with a timestamp. Omar emailed a PDF called Preferred Vendor Schedule, and there it was in quiet font. Horizon Path Advisors LLC listed as advisory on every project, over $2,500 consulting to a vendor that always won the job. And if you squinted, it looked like process. If you opened your eyes, it looked like a siphon. I sent everything to Ruth, and she wrote back, measured as a level. "City will attend the next board meeting. Keep it factual." Sunday night, a certified letter arrived with lien intent for unpaid fines and a scheduled ramp removal. Monday, 7:00 a.m. The tow truck would be early, the drills would be eager, and fear turned into anger, turned into clarity that felt like a new spine. So I filed for an emergency open meeting under the bylaws printed flyers, with accessibility versus aesthetics. Tonight, 7 p.m., emailed the neighborhood blog because I am not above a microphone when someone is trying to move the stage. The room filled fast. Standing in the back, phones pointed at the dais. Brenda banged the gavel like it owed her money and said public comment after board business. and when my name got called, I stepped up and said, "I'm Nate Carter." Wonder 17. Alder Court. This is my dad's ramp, and this is your vendor ledger, and the projector painted numbers on the wall. September, October. Same 2 columns, and then a name you could not unsee. Horizon Path Advisors LLC, and I said, "Horizon Path is registered to Brenda Klein," and she smiled with her face and not her eyes. "We'll address false insinuations in executive session." Consulting is standard, and I clicked to Jenna's doorbell file. Brooks Front 20.250912 MP Clear Audio. Use the expedite clause. He'll fold when he sees the lien letter, and the room shifted like a boat. I showed Ruth's accessibility guidance section that says HOA bylaws do not preempt municipal allowances for medical access modifications. I showed photos of the other properties that never got fined. A woman stood and said, "That orange shed is mine," and nobody ever said a word. And Brenda tried to thread a needle with words like, "Community vision requires patience and harmony, protects property values." And Omar finally loud said, "Every Crestline job." Over $2,500 sent a fee to your LLC. We never saw a single disclosure, and a board member studied the table grain like it might save him. Ruth walked down the aisle with a slim folder and said Holm is a good nurse. Cedar Ridge Hollow is out of compliance. The city recognizes this ramp. Any attempt to remove it violates municipal code and state accessibility allowances. And the door opened for a uniformed city inspector who took the mic and read like a grocery list, "Cease and desist on interference at 117. Alder Court referral for financial review regarding vendor relationships and possible conflicts," and the room didn't cheer. It exhaled. "This is order," Brenda said. Smaller now. Order keeps things beautiful, and I told her what I'd learned, standing at the edge of a saw blade. Order without mercy is a costume, and Omar moved to suspend the president pending investigation. Another board member surprised himself by seconding. Hands lifted 2-1. Brenda reached for the gavel out of muscle memory and stopped when Omar slid it away. The inspector set the cease and desist on her plaque, and out in the lot the tow truck revved, then rolled off empty. I wish I could tell you. I felt triumphant like a movie ending. But what I felt first was tired, and then relieved. And then a question that still lives under my ribs. Do we build committees to keep order, or to keep each other in line? And how many of us like a hall monitor until the whistle turns on us? You know what I mean. In the morning, the lien got rescinded, and the ramp stayed put. The plaque in the community center had a gap where a name used to be. Neighbors argued on the page about whether we saved the street or doomed it to chaos. Someone said, "Horizon Path." Sounded legit if you didn't know what it was. Someone else said, "Nothing legit hides behind memo lines." A teenager on a skateboard stopped at the bottom of the ramp and held the rail steady while my dad took the last 3 steps. Didn't say a word, didn't need to, and I stood there thinking, beauty that humiliates people isn't beauty. It's control with better lighting. So tell me, did I do the right thing blasting it open, or did I push too far and risk the peace we all say we want? Should aesthetics ever trump access? Where is the line between community standards and bullying? In khakis, drop your take in the comments, argue with me. Tell me your street, and your Brenda, and your ramp, and if you've ever watched someone choose between pain and pride. Because a rule cared more about symmetry than people say it out loud, so the rest of us can hear it.